So look, the big news yesterday, UFC 249 was canceled. After all the conversation, after all the back and forth, after all the secrecy, after all the excitement that fans had that they were going to get to watch what was really going to be a spectacular card, has now been canceled. And of course, we learned that it was going to be at Tachi Palace in California. And, literally right up until the last minute here, just over a week out, I guess eventually Dana White kept pushing. And it looks like Disney, ESPN came in and made the final call that this wasn't going to happen. And look, we broke down some of these fights last week. You were going to break them down in more detail next week. And I can tell you the biggest losers in all of this are the sports bettors. BetOnline had odds for every single fight on this card. Sports bettors who have been without basketball and baseball and hockey, no March Madness, no NBA Finals, no NHL, no opening day of baseball. This was a glimmer of hope that they were going to be able to bet on live sports and a great show at that, and that now is not the case. So, I really don't know what that says about future events for the UFC. I know Dana White mentioned a private island. Boxing is basically shut down for the foreseeable future, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, you mentioned sports bettors being some of the biggest losers, and I totally agree, and I see that. And yes, Dana White did confirm with Brett Okamoto of ESPN that it was going to be Tachi Palace, and he showed a lot of gratitude towards them. He said that he appreciated them standing in the trenches with him and sticking with him when everybody else was kind of going against the event. So a lot of people stand on different sides of the fence with whether or not he should have or shouldn't have been doing the event. So there's a lot of opinions out there about that. But he said that he guarantees that when they do come back to the state of California, they're going to do their show at the Tachi Palace because he wants to give them that revenue, give them that shine for sticking with them. But another group of people who stand to really lose with this is the freelance sports writers who cover combat sports, because there's nothing going on, as you mentioned. There's nothing to write about. A lot of people are having to be very creative to have topics to discuss. And those people thought, like, on one side of their head, I know they're like, you know what, this probably maybe is a tough thing, a tough event to have. But man, I sure would love to have something to write about right now, because obviously that's their revenue too. So it's almost, they're almost in the same situation as the fighters, because fighters don't get paid if they don't fight unless they have some sort of other sponsorship deal that's paying them regardless. And freelance sports writers don't get paid unless they have something to write about, because most of them are getting paid on a per article or traffic basis. So that's a small sect of the MMA community, combat sports community overall, that often probably doesn't get discussed. But because I've been and am a part of that on some levels, I always remember that. But I'm hoping that we see sports just return in regularity. I'm also hoping that this doesn't drastically change the way that the whole combat sports arena is absorbed by fans. That's like the thing, more so than wanting this thing to happen. That's more so where I am. Also, you mentioned the island. He did confirm that as well. He said Fight Island is a real thing, right, which I think can be a ridiculous, kind of a promotional thing going forward. But it's probably best if we do that when it's safe to do it.